Welcome back to the Fit Minute Podcast, Fitness for Real People. I'm your host, Gabby Mazar. Today's episode is a fellow trainer. Her name is Sierra Rich, and we're going to discuss all about pregnancy, fitness during pregnancy. We're going to talk about competition. She used to do competition and competition prep, and how to handle having your first baby and then your second baby. So let's get started. Welcome back to the Fit Minute Podcast. I'm your host, Gabby Mazar, and on today's episode, I have Sierra Rich here with me. She's a fellow trainer, and she's got some insight into things that I've never been through, like having babies, and she's personally done competition prep, and I wanted to talk to her about that today because she's got some different views, and always talking to different trainers, you get a whole different insight into another world of training that you don't necessarily think about every day. So welcome, Sierra.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Let's start by talking about before you had kids, when you first started training, you did competition, not fitness competitions, but like bikini competition?
Yeah, I did fitness bikini competitions.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what it took to prep for those, what the process was, kind of what you went through, and
So I started that probably about a year or two into my kind of training journey and fitness and stuff once I moved out here to Arizona. And I hired a trainer myself, even though I was a trainer, just because that was something that I had no experience in. So I wanted to work with somebody who knew what they were doing, and she was actually a pro level, so she had a lot of experience and information she could give me. And basically we just set up, a specific training program to work on the areas of my body that really needed to be targeted and focused for what they look for in competitions.
Right.
Diet-wise, it was pretty different, actually, my first show compared to my last three that I had done, because I went vegan, and that was just kind of like a personal choice, had nothing to do with competition or anything like that. So the nutrition side of things was probably what was the most different between the two preps.
Yeah.
And actually gave me a little bit more freedom and flexibility, and it didn't feel so rigid and kind of hard to buckle down, because I wasn't giving up a whole lot of stuff. I was already eating really, really healthy.
Right. What would be the difference, you would say? What did you think was, obviously not eating meat, but how did you find it different between eating vegan and prepping and eating because basically the diet is like boiled chicken and cinnamon
it's
and
like rice occasionally and sweet potatoes, and then like obviously loads of veggies. I feel like with the first prep, I had to track everything, because the things that I was eating had a lot more calories in them, and things like that. I was just a lot more rigid with it. The second time and the shows after that where I was vegan, I was just eating really healthy foods that I was just kind of intuitively eating, and I hate putting kind of labels on things like that.
Right.
But really, I didn't worry. I didn't track a single thing throughout the entire preps, which is like unheard of when you're prepping for shows
Totally
like that, especially because as you get closer to a show, you start to cut calories, and you're cutting out carbs, and you're doing these carb cycling and all this kind of stuff. And because I was already eating really well and I was losing body fat and leaning out the way I needed to for the show, I didn't need to do any kind of extreme cutting or anything like that as I led up to it. So I really could kind of just maintain what I was eating. When I was hungry, I would eat, and I would fuel my body based on the workouts that I was doing. And it felt really good doing those shows as opposed to the first show where I just felt exhausted. Especially as
hungry.
You got hungry and grouchy, and just like as you got closer to that first show, I was just so depleted, and just worn out. So it just takes everything.
Prep, right?
Yeah, it just takes everything out of you. And those other ones, I felt like my body was able to sustain itself a lot better. I didn't have to do any extreme yo-yo dieting.
Did you notice a difference in your body with eating differently like that?
Yeah. Besides just like energy levels and like kind of brain fog and stuff, that stuff improved huge compared to the first time around. Because again, I was able to eat, carbs, fats, and proteins the entire time, and I wasn't having to kind of give up something for any period of time. But I also, my body was leaning out a lot faster because I was just putting really good kind of nutritious foods into it. So I wasn't actually having, even though I was still working out really hard, I wasn't having to do this rigid cardio and extreme stuff like that, again, that some people have to do sometimes to cut those last few, body fat percentage and stuff to get themselves down that low. But those are probably the biggest differences that I noticed in that.
Interesting. Are you still vegetarian?
Yeah, I'm vegetarian. I kind of go back and forth between vegan and vegetarian. When my daughter was born, I actually had to go vegan again for a few months because she had a dairy intolerance, which is pretty normal. And then after 6 months, when she was after 6 months old, I was allowed to introduce it again to see how she would react. And so again, I kind of slipped up and went into cheese and all that good stuff. So, I kind of dabble back and forth a little bit. But.
Yeah. So since you mentioned your daughter, I wanted to touch a little bit on that. You had your daughter is?
She's 15 months old right now.
15 months.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about fitness during pregnancy and how you kind of transitioned into staying healthy and staying fit during your first pregnancy. So can you talk about what you did and what things you did differently and how it was different, felt different while pregnant?
So the first pregnancy was a surprise. It was not necessarily planned. And I was actually, ironically, I had just talked to my coach like maybe a week or two before finding out that I was pregnant and told him that I wanted to do another show again. I took kind of a year and a half, 2 years off and decided I wanted to get back into it. And then I found out I was pregnant. So I was going to be, full term by the time that show rolled around. Right. So I wasn't going to do that. So I think because I was already in a really good workout routine and schedule and I was already in really good shape still, it was really easy that first time around to kind of maintain, to a certain degree, that level of fitness still.
Right.
I was already in a routine and I was working full time in the gym. So I was at the gym 6 days a week. So in between clients, I was still doing workouts. And even though the intensity would change and obviously the amount of weight that I was able to lift as I got further along changed, I didn't get a lot of morning sickness or anything like that with her. So I was able to really kind of keep up with my routine. And the hardest part for me, I think mentally, was just coping with the fact that I wasn't able to lift what I knew my body was so capable of.
And there's certain exercises you can't do while pregnant also. I have trained a lot of pregnant women, and I think the misconception is that you should stop working out. But it is really good for you to maintain that routine because you can get back into your healthy routine after pregnancy.
Right. I think that was actually like a huge misconception that I had, was this idea of like bouncing back really fast. And if you were someone who was, big into fitness and health before, that it'd be really easy for you to kind of get back into it. And it was so not at all easy like I thought it would be.
I love that you said that.
It was really hard. And I still, obviously I'm pregnant again now. I'm halfway there. I'm 20 weeks right now. And this pregnancy has been completely opposite of what the first one was. So the first one, feeling really good and never really feeling sick, I was able to really kind of maintain my level of fitness for a long time until it got to the point where I was just, bigger and uncomfortable, and then I kind of would, take it easy on myself or whatever. But this time around, I was really sick for the whole first part. And then didn't take into consideration that you'd be also chasing around a toddler while pregnant. So that pregnancy, this one, again, has just been polar opposite from the first one. And I wish I knew how easy I had it the first time. Or maybe I would have taken a little more advantage of it. So it's been a struggle this time around for me to try to maintain any even sort of routine or schedule at the gym. I joke that I make it in there about once every 3 weeks on average.
Right.
And I do the best I can. I think it's just, for me, mentally learning to cope with the fact that what you can do now is different from what you could do before. And it doesn't mean that I can't still go into the gym and do stuff that I used to be able to do, but that your body's just never going to be the same. And that's not in a negative way. And it's not to say that you can't ever get into great shape or better shape than what you were
Just
previously.
different.
It's going to be different, and it's going to feel different. And the hardest part is kind of mentally getting over those hurdles of, you know, hey, you used to be able to lift this much with ease, and now it's a little bit harder. And eventually you'll get back there, but your body just needs more time to get back to where you were at. So
I think a lot of people think, you know, you'll get right back into the gym and you can get back after, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
You're
typically cleared after like 6 weeks or so to get back to physical
depending
stuff.
on if you have natural or C-section or whatever. But I think it's difficult because with an infant, you're very tired.
Yeah, exhausted all the time.
So I know with my clients that come back after they have kids, it's like, I'm so tired. You know, you take it easy. You can't do as much because you're exhausted.
Right.
Your body has just gone through this huge process, and your hormones have changed, and your body has changed, and you're taking care of something else other than yourself. So it is important to kind of take care of yourself in that mental aspect too. Like you talked about, I know you went through postpartum after your first pregnancy. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think, you know, a lot of people say you go to your doctor, your 6-8 week checkup after the baby. Oh, how are you doing? How's everything going? And everything else beyond that is always, how's the baby doing? How's everything going with that? But no one really dives into how the mom is doing, how she's healing physically, but also like mentally and emotionally. And for me, I didn't necessarily have any kind of postpartum depression, but for me it was more anxiety. So the anxiety of just being a new mom and all this stuff going on made it really challenging for me to just kind of function daily sometimes.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until she was like a year old that it started to kind of really affect me, to where I couldn't go to the gym. I mean, I was pregnant, or had found out I was pregnant right around when she was turned a year old. But I couldn't go to the gym regularly, not just because of that, but because, again, you're just taking care of a tiny human and you're exhausted all the time. Right. And then I was back at work, and even though it was pretty part-time, you know, you're just being pulled in so many directions that it's just kind of hard to maintain and focus on yourself too. So at about a year, the anxiety kind of kicked in, and I actually ended up going to a therapist, because for me, fitness has always been my release, and it's always been my fallback when I'm anxious or stressed or depressed. But when you have so many other things going on and other people that you're taking care of, it's hard sometimes to have that outlet anymore. And for me, like, after having a baby and trying to get back to, not necessarily get back to my old body, but to get back into like a physical shape, or just even be able to go to the gym semi-regularly, was really, really hard. And so that kind of added to the issues that I was having and struggling with postpartum. And I think once I was able to kind of mentally get over some of those hurdles by going to therapy and talking some of that stuff out, and understanding how important it really was, that even if I just took an hour out of the day to go for a walk or go to the gym, that for me personally, fitness was really important for my mental and emotional health.
Yeah, I think a lot of new moms too, you are so concentrated on taking care of this child that you do put yourself aside, because you have to take care of this child, but you have to take time to take care of yourself. Otherwise, you can't take care of somebody else. You can't, get up in the morning and go to work and go to the gym and do the things that you need to do for a normal life. So taking that hour, even if it's just to sit in silence.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I would literally drive to the gym. I'd leave the baby at home and, have someone watch her, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to work out, and I would drive there, and by the time I got there, I was just so exhausted and worn out already, that I would, just sit in the car and just cry, and I was like, well, okay, not going to make it into the gym today. That's as far as we went, is to the parking lot. That's great, But I think it took me a while to understand. I mean, I knew all along that it was important to take care of myself, but just finding a way to just make the time for that. And mom guilt is like a serious thing. Yeah. So trying to be, selfish, I guess, and say, okay, I need this hour to myself every day or a couple of times a week just to do what's going to kind of fill my cup back up so I can pour out over onto all the people that I'm taking care of, making that a priority again. It took me a while to kind of do that, but I'm back there slowly.
How do you feel your body is different from the first pregnancy to this pregnancy?
I would say, like, beyond the physical, like the sickness and that kind of stuff, I definitely can feel that I'm a lot weaker this time around because I haven't been so active. Where, I was kind of at a higher level athletically with that first pregnancy, so even though it took a toll on my body, and obviously I lost some strength and things like that, coming into this next pregnancy, because I had pretty much taken almost a year off of really hard training, my body was already starting at kind of a lower athletic level. So sometimes I go for a walk and the next day I'm like, man, my legs are sore. That was a good workout, and it's funny because that would never happen in the past because I was just in such great shape. I do the best I can to try to move because I know how important it is to move because labor and delivery is an athletic event in itself.
Right.
And so it's really important that you're healthy and physically capable of doing that kind of stuff to avoid, any kind of interventions or something that might have to happen. And so, I also had a C-section, my first one, ended up turning into a C-section and, having your abdomen split open and then trying to get back into the gym and not realizing how important that core strength was for so many things. Like you knew it, but you didn't really know until suddenly you have none,
right.
So my body has definitely kind of felt like it's gone through the ringer a little bit, but
yeah. Do you feel like you have a different view with clients now that you've gone through pregnancy?
I am much more understanding and forgiving and give them a whole lot more grace. I just think until you experience it and you understand what it's like to have a pre-baby body and a post-baby body, you can't make that connection, and it's not a lack of effort or understanding from a trainer's perspective. Like, you do the best you can to try to relate to your clients and help them through their personal struggles and obstacles, but that's just one of those things that until you experience it, you really don't have solid insight on it. Yeah, and even still, every pregnancy is so different with each person, even within yourself. My first to my second, it's so different that it's even hard sometimes to still relate to people who have had a totally different experience than you.
Right.
So I have a couple moms that I've trained, and some of us have similar experiences, some of us have totally different ones, and it's just a lot more patience and understanding and just forgiveness for them and really teaching them to just kind of forgive themselves and give themselves a little bit more grace.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Because I think that we're our worst critics, and we can be so hard on ourselves. So I know I do it to myself, and then having moms who are some of my clients, they're like, I used to be able to do all this stuff, and my body is just, wrecked now, and I don't even know who this person is. And it's just like, yeah, well, that's kind of what happens, so let's rebuild up who this new person is post-baby,
Or just understanding how your body is different.
Right.
Different shapes, you fit things differently,
right.
And you grew and gained weight, and everything changes. So I haven't had a kid, so I don't really personally understand, but I do have a lot of clients that have had kids or friends that have had kids too, and it is very difficult, I think, especially as women, to kind of cope with the fact that your body has changed.
Yeah.
And understanding that, a pair of shorts that used to fit, even though you might be thinner than or not thinner, but less weight than you were before, they don't fit because your body's different.
Right.
Do you mind if I ask you how much weight you gained with your first pregnancy?
Yeah, so like I said, I was in really great shape. I was 134 when I started, or when I first found out I was pregnant. And the last time I had weighed myself shortly before labor, I was 171.
Okay.
So I had gained a pretty decent amount of weight. And I was definitely more of like a belly weight person. I didn't gain a ton of weight all over my body. It was just primarily in my belly. But then after I had the baby, I was breastfeeding, and I heard all the time, oh, you're going to lose all this weight. Don't even worry about it. I was like, oh, I am banking on that.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. I mean, it happened, but it didn't.
Right.
I lost, a lot the first couple weeks after the baby.
Right.
Your body kind of shrinks back down a little bit. But then I never lost the last 8 to 10 pounds and got back to that pre-baby body weight ever. And then I got pregnant again. So now we're going back up.
Now we're doing
moving
it all
on up
over.
again. Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up because I know, I think, what is it? You're supposed to gain like 24 pounds or something, like 20.
Yeah, some really unrealistic amount.
Thank you for saying that, because I had a previous client years ago that I think gained like 60 pounds, but, they're like, it was unrealistic for her. I think she was like 5'10" or something, to only gain 20 pounds. And they're like, oh, well, you're gaining a lot of weight. But she was working out. She was eating healthy. And it's like, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Let your body do its process. Don't have that guilt and think that you have to fit in this, because, like you said, every pregnancy is different. Even from one to the next in the same person. You just don't know how your body's going to react. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
So you have to forgive yourself. You have to understand that it's different, that it's changing. And I wanted to share that with people, because even you, as a competition trained trainer, still gained close to 40 pounds.
Yeah, pretty close to 40 pounds. I mean, give or take. I'm sure I landed, by the time the baby came, I'm sure I landed right around there. And I didn't get it all off, before I decided to have the next baby. And I was okay with that. Like, it wasn't super important to me, I guess. The number, as far as I know that, especially for women, that can really weigh heavily on them, and they don't look at, look at your strength gains and look at all the things that you're able to do. For them, it's like, oh yeah, but I still weigh this much, and and they're bummed about that. So, to a certain degree, I wanted to be able to get rid of a lot of that weight, but also I understand now that, my daughter's 15 months old and I'm still breastfeeding, so my body, to a certain degree, has to be able to support certain things to be able to maintain that. And so for me, it wasn't really important to me that I got all the way back down to what I was before I had the baby, or less than that. It was just I wanted to feel healthy and feel good. And I was able to do that before I, decided to get pregnant again. But who knows how much this time around will. I try really hard not to, use pregnancy as an excuse necessarily to eat crappy food or be lazy or something like that. But for me, it's like I know that I haven't been able to work out nearly as much. I still haven't really actually gained as much so far as I expected to, for not being able to be as active for the first part of my pregnancy. But that could come back towards the end. At the end of your pregnancy, you're supposed to average about 1 pound a week. So, even if you haven't gained a lot in the beginning of that pregnancy, you'll get to that second half and suddenly the pounds just kind of start adding up, and before you know it, you've gained, 30 to 40 pounds, which I feel like is a lot more realistic to say that that's going to be something that you'll put on versus telling someone they're only going to put 25 pounds on, and and then they beat themselves up because they're 5 pounds over that. And
it's hard because we try so hard in our business to really be motivators, to really be understanding, and to get people to their fitness goals. But at the same time, there's that line of you have to be understanding of people's situations and know that it's not just a number.
Yeah.
It's not just inches. It's not just body fat. There's so many other components to what we do and why we do it, and being healthy and having a healthy mind as well. And there's a lot to saying that, we our own was for critics, even I'm sure when you were in contest prep, there was like, look, what is this right here? I want to get rid of this specific thing.
Abs.
And it's
like, you've got abs. And you look in the mirror, you've got abs, and you're like, but I'm not skinny enough. I'm not lean enough. It's, and it's never enough. It's never right.
Yeah, it's never perfect, even if you look perfect to somebody else.
Right.
Do you think that you'll do competition again someday?
Probably not.
No.
I don't think I'll ever do a bikini competition again. I think maybe some other form of like a fitness competition that's more like strength related, I think would be a lot more fun. I am a competitive person and I like pushing myself and challenging myself. So in that aspect, I would love to find something that I can do to really push myself. But just the amount of kind of selfish dedication that it requires to be able to focus on what you need to do to get ready for a bikini show is just not something that I personally would want to do after having kids, because I would rather spend more time with my kids and my family, and work out and lift because it's fun and I'm enjoying it, and not because I'm beating myself up and I have to sacrifice time with them in order to accomplish these goals. For me, it's more about the balance now of spending time with my family, but also being able to maintain, a healthy and fit life or whatever. But probably not going to go back in the bikini competition realm.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
I mean, tons of credit to those who have kids and are able to still kind of jump back into that and do that. For me, I mean, just since having the first baby and being pregnant and trying to take care of her, it's a lot to try to take care of kids and do anything else on top of that. So for them, all the credit in the world. For me, I'm not signing up for that. So
how many hours a day do you think you had to work out during, or what was your workout regimen?
So back then I was working out 6 or 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And some days they would be as short as a 20 or 30 minute kind of HIIT style cardio strength workout, and other days it was an hour and a half long actual lifting sessions. But yeah, I mean, on average it was for sure 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And but also back then my priorities were me,
right.
And it was me and my boyfriend, and we had some dogs, and that was it. So life was pretty easy. So if I felt like dipping out and going to the gym for 2 hours just to kill time or just to hang out, I could do that and take my time. Where now it's I'm a little more focused on a mission. All right, I got an hour. Let's see what I can get done, while I'm away for the hour or something. So, yeah, back then it was a lot more. It was a lot more fun and more of just chill hangout time, and now it's all right, we got to go get this work done and get out of here.
Let's get this done.
We're running out of time.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I really am glad you came on, because I wanted to relate to people that know and understand what you've been through. And I mean, not that lots of people have kids, but I think it's not talked about a lot that there's such a huge change, and I don't think people know kind of what they're getting into. Right. You have a kid and you're like, oh, this won't be so bad. And
I think you have a plan, and then the kid comes and you're just what plan is happening? Get through one day at a time. That's all we're doing over here. So,
and it's a lot harder to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And you want your kid to not die.
Right. Yeah. Stay alive, small child, please. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me, with this whole fitness and then the pre-baby, post-baby kind of thing is postpartum, the idea of just getting your body back, I think, is just a false concept. Yeah. And the more that people can advertise about how you need to mount back and get that body back, the more they can just sell you stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot more important to just realize that the person that you were before was a different season of your life, and you're in a totally new season. And even though this one might only last for the first year or 2 years, or, until the baby gets older and things get a little bit easier, it is a new season. Your body is prepared and looks the way it's supposed to look for that season. So, just giving yourself grace and understanding that, it'll pass and you'll move on to the next season. And at that point, you can focus on yourself more, or do the things that you need to do to get back to where you'll feel really confident in yourself. Because I don't think it's about getting that pre-baby body back, but it's just about getting that confidence in yourself back.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm going to have some information on you in the show notes and on my website. And if anybody has any questions about or needs a therapist or referral to a therapist, you have one. If you've been through any of this, just know that it's normal. And it's okay, and it's okay to feel not normal.
Yeah, it's okay to feel like you don't know what's happening.
Because you don't. You've never been through this before.
None of us know what's happening. We're all just pretending like we've got it together.
That's so. All Yes. Well, first of all, everybody in life, but
Yeah.
especially as parents. Like if they write books and books and books and you can read every single one of them, but tell me how many of them.
None of them have helped me. No. Right.
You're like, just throw it out and wing
Yeah.
it, because that's what everybody's really doing. So if you relate to any of this, I'm sure that there's so many people out there that do, but feel free to contact Sierra, and she can help you with any questions or any concerns or anything you have about fitness and pregnancy and after pregnancy, and if you need a referral to a therapist, please contact her. So thank you so much for listening today, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Fit Minute Podcast, Fitness for Real People, with me, your host, Gabby Mazar. If you would like any more information on what we talked about today, you can find it in the show notes, or you can find it on my website, www.healthybodyworksaz.com. Please leave us a review if you like what you hear, or subscribe to our channel on iTunes or whatever platform you listen to. Join us next week to hear more stories about people just like you.